What is up, YouTube? My name is Eben, and I have a very fun, very solid deck that I have been dying to bring to you. The time has finally come. It is Zoroark. It's Zoroark Ninetails. And for this deck, we are featuring two of the relatively new Zoroark GX, and now that he is a promo, he's much easier to get than he was when he was just in Shining Legends. For those of you who've been living under a rock, he is a Stage 1 with 210 HP, and a 2 energy retreat and weakness resist, blah, blah, blah. You can see the card. The important thing is his ability trade, which allows you to discard a card from your hand if you want to draw 2 cards. And there are some really amazing interactions with this, such as Mallow, for instance. This card's trade basically turns Mallow into a cost-free double computer search, which is outstanding. For 2 colorless, it also gets to deal 20 damage for each of your Pokemon in play, and this includes itself, so you can theoretically deal 120 damage just by loading your bench, which is pretty good for a double colorless energy. And we are going to potentially use its Trickster GX, which allows you to just steal any attack from any of your opponent's Pokemon and use it as this attack. So you can reach to the bench, you can even copy their GX attacks, pretty amazing there. And we also run 2 of the Breakthrough Zoroark with Stand-In. He's just a good non-GX attacker. His Mind Jack is really good. You know it already. It's 10 base and then 30 for each of their benched Pokemon, so as much as 160 damage, potentially. And his stand-in combines well with Floatstone to give you lots of little, come in and then retreat away kind of hijinks. So you can kind of tailor the Zoroark evolution you need for the situation, since you really only need 1 trade in Zoroark to make things happy. So that's kind of our big beater and a little bit of our support right there. And we're running 4 Zoruas to get our 4 Zoroarks up and running happily. And we're running, of course, Alolan Ninetails to go with this. We are running just 2. That's really all you need. The combo here is pretty much Ice Blade. Puts those 50 damages here and there, which is enough for either of your Zoroarks usually to pick up a KO on something, which is quite nice. Or if they retreat something with heavy damage, then you can pick it off of Alolan Ninetails later. And of course, if your opponent's not going to one-shot your Ninetails, it's very dangerous because you can Ice Path to just switch lots of damage back onto them, which means you can maybe Ice Blade them to death later or pick them off with Zoroark or whatever the case may be. Blizzard Edge, we do actually run some water energies, so you might be able to deal that 160. I have used that to kill a couple of things, which is pretty nice. But we're mainly here for our double colorless invested attacks. As you notice, double colorless energy is kind of a theme here. We've got 2 Alolan Vulpix, the Beacon variety, of course, just to help us set up early and get us into our Ninetails. It's nice that this thing can be the means to evolve into something that's an attacker, because that justifies us running more of an already good early game Pokemon. And the rest of the Pokemon base is pretty easy. We've got 2 Tapu Leles because Wonder Tag is just that good, and Wonder Tagging for, say, Mallow is a really nice thing to do once you've got your Zoroark GX up. And our last Pokemon in here is we are running a copy of Glaceon EX. There are just so many decks that rely on evolutions, and the fact that we already run a little water energy and we have double colorless energy, it is just too good of an opportunity to pass up to get away with running this 1 Crystal Ray. This can slow a lot of opponents down, and under the right circumstances, it can even totally lock them out. It's a really nice one-of that is worth running, in my opinion. It's a very powerful card, and they're often forced to Guzma around it just to try to get some kind of damage in. So you can judge the situation and what your opponent runs, how much of an obstacle this thing is going to be for them, and you know what, if it's not going to be an obstacle for them, don't even worry about it. Just don't, you don't bench it in that game. No worries, that's why it's a one-of. Getting to our supporter base, we run 4 Sycamore. It's just the best card draw option, period, and you definitely want to set up as quickly as you can. We're also running 4 Ns. We have a lot of evolutions here, so N is usually the preferable supporter early game for drawing, just because he's not going to be discarding those evolutions that you're going to have to worry about getting back. So he's definitely a draw supporter we're going to want. And the aforementioned Mallow is also here. She lets you get any 2 cards from your deck you want, shuffle your deck, and put them on top. But of course, with Zoroark GX, you can just discard a card you don't need from your hand to draw both those cards instantaneously. So it's a nice way to set yourself up. And there are a number of one-ofs and then things like double colorless energy that we definitely like to exploit Mallow to get a hold of. Very good card in that regard. All right, and we do have the one Bridget, which we can Lele or Ultra Ball for Lele to get early, so we can throw down a bunch of basics Like, say, I usually get 2 Zoruas and 1 Alolan Vulpix. That's usually what I end up getting. But just whatever you need for the situation, of course. Obviously, you might just get 3 Zoruas or whatever the case might be. You could even use it to fetch your 1 Glaceon. Very situationally dependent. We are running 1 copy of Shauna. No, it's not just because I have a full art, although it does look amazing. But the reason I'm running this is because we can stuff our hand at certain points in the game, especially getting toward later in the game. And it's nice to have a card draw option that still gets us decent resources at other times in the game, but we'll also be able to stuff a lot of extra cards from our hand back into our deck to kind of help combat decking out. I kind of ran it as an experiment because I've seen it on some other lists for decks with similar heavy draw power, and so far I've liked it. I think it's definitely worth it. This deck runs really well and runs well with this card. We're also, our last supporter is we're running 3 Guzmas. This one's pretty obvious. We have a lot of ways of, chipping damage here and there, and then big hits that can potentially pick up knockouts. So Guzma is just kind of a no-brainer, and it's already kind of a 3-of in most decks anyway. So it's, same story here. It's just a really, really good card. Moving to our items, we're running 4 Ultra Balls. This is kind of a no-brainer here. Obviously, you pick up your Lele's. You can also pick up Evolutions. Speaking of picking up Evolutions, we're running 2 Evo Sodas. Timer Ball's propensity to fail is something that I think anybody who's played it more than a couple of times is very aware of. This guarantees you get the right evolution at the right time, so as long as you get those basics out, like say via Bridget, Evo Soda makes sure you can get the correct Zoroark for your needs, or you can just pick up that Alolan Ninetails so you can start doing whatever it is you're trying to do. And as I mentioned before, we do have 2 Float Stones to kind of get our Zoroark stand-in to where we can just freely switch around to get anything into the active slot we want. And we're also running 3 Choice Bands to maximize our damage. No surprises there either. It's a nice number of that card to be running. We have 2 Field Blowers. You can make an argument for 3, but I think that's a little excessive. 2 is good because we're a little concerned about Garbodor. Obviously, his ability to turn off abilities, the older one with Garbotoxin, that can be a little bit of an issue. So blowing those tools off in that matchup is very useful. But obviously also if we can just Guzma that thing up and pick it off, that works even better. And it just generally does a lot of utility work for us as well. And then as far as our 1-ofs go, we have 1 Rescue Stretcher. This is great for retrieving evolutions if they just got KO'd or whatever the case may be, or if we were forced to discard it to trade for Zoroark GX. We also have Super Rod. This can be pretty useful for stuffing Mons back in as needed. Play these cards judiciously, and they can be very powerful. You only need the 1, but play the 1 smart, And our final card, this is a nice 1-of, is Captivating Pokepuff. Because remember, our regular Zoroark likes our opponent's bench to be full, and this can be a great way to just throw them down there and fill up their bench to force them into a situation where our Mind Jack is much more powerful. And benching things with Captivating Pokepuff also gets around coming into play abilities like that of Tapu Lele GX, for example. So it's a nice way to get around it. So like if you get this turn 1, do not be afraid to slap it down very quickly, and you can potentially kind of sideswipe your opponent early on. So that's your item base, 16 cards there. And we are running 14 energies, and you do really kind of need all of it. And we run 4 double colorless energies because all of our good attackers run on double colorless energy. And then as far as our basic energies go, you can do this how you want. I just split it half and half between basic dark and basic water. Reason being the basic energies are just, they're safer than special energies. That's why I'm not opting for rainbows. And of course, the 10 damage is something I'd like to avoid. But this way I have the option to use the second attack on Alolan Ninetails, and I also have the option to pull my GX attack off on my can't talk anymore, my Zoroark GX. Either way, I've used both. I've never really found it a problem, but if you power somebody up with 2 energy of each kind, like a water and a dark on Zoroark GX or whatever, I mean, don't worry about it. These are just here as kind of contingencies. But if there's one of those you'd like to value much, emphasizing a lot more, you can certainly just run all dark or all water or whatever you please. But this is kind of how I wanted to run it, and like I say, it has worked very well for me. This deck is very powerful. I've really enjoyed it. Zoroark GX is an outstanding card. It is definitely worth a try if you haven't already tried it. And regular Zoroark is so good. I mean, none of these cards need to be proved. So like I say, take this to a local event. You will not be disappointed. And anyway, until next time, Like, comment, subscribe, check out playlists on my channel. You will find more cool stuff like this, and I will see you next time.